session. Hang on guys, just give me a moment. So in my last class, we have completed all the NFRs, if you remember. Okay. So in my last class, we have completed the NFRs. So let's have a quick recap, guys. Let's have a quick recap as to what we have discussed the last class. Okay. So can you please come out with some points? Can you please come out with some points? And there are some assignments submitted. So after the class, I'll look into the assignments. But for now, let's have a quick recap as to what we have discussed. Okay. Can you please come out with some points that we have discussed? Anything that you could remember from the last class, please? Wonderful. Shraddha is saying that, we have collected something called NFRs, non-functional requirements, or what are the non-functional requirements that we are supposed to collect. We have discussed in detail. Okay. So as you guys are saying, the first one is infrastructure detail or infra details. Okay. So the first one is the infra details. Okay. So wonderful. So as a part of it, we collect both the performance testing environment details, okay, perf testing environment details, and production details. Okay, so what kind of servers they are, how much is the RAM, and all that. Okay, so the second one is the transactional details. Okay, so only for critical ones, performance critical ones, we collect it. Okay, and we do the performance testing for performance critical. Okay, so what do we call it as performance critical, guys? Which transactions are considered to be performance critical? Which transactions are considered to be performance critical? Which transactions are considered to be performance critical? Okay, one is frequently used. One is frequently used. Wonderful. Second one is business critical. Wonderful. Okay, and the third one is frequently used, business critical, and high resource intensive transactions. Okay, this is what you're supposed to collect as a part of transactional details. Okay, then once we are collected that, then the workload related data. Okay, so we have discussed in detail, how we are supposed to collect and how does it affect the load test, if you don't do this activity correctly. Okay, and usually, yeah, wonderful, Majid. So usually you do this for the peak hours. Okay. Okay. Now scalability related data. Wonderful, Melly. Okay. and KPIs and NFRs. Okay, KPIs and NFRs, and finally the DB. Okay, DB related rate. So this is what we have discussed in detail in the last class. Okay, we have clearly covered as to what all the stuff that we can collect as a part of NFRs. Okay, what all we can collect as a part of NFRs. So today we're gonna jump into this tool called LoadRunner. We're gonna jump into this tool called LoadRunner. So from today onwards, it is important for all of us. Okay, as to what is this tool called LoadRunner. So when you install this tool called LoadRunner, you could have already noticed that there is not one component or one tool that will be installed. There is not one component or one tool that will be installed. Okay, typically there are 4 components that will be installed. There is 4 components that will be installed: virtual user generator, controller, analyzer, and load generator, or the agent machine, or the load injector. So depending on the tool, we call this as a load generator or agent machine or load injector. The very commonly used term is agent or agent machine, irrespective of which tool you are using. But if you're using the LoadRunner tool, this agent machine, they specifically call it as load generator, okay, or LGs. This is what a popular name, okay. Or if you're using the other tools like Jmeter or maybe RPT, they might use the term called load injector. So whatever you are using the term, it's all the same, guys: load generator or load injector or agent machine. Okay. So we'll look into each one of these tools as to what is this purpose of this each component, how important it is for us to understand each one of them. Okay, but there is one thing that you would observe is, as soon as you install this LoadRunner tool, these are the 3 components that you can see from your start menu, or these 3 components would be installed on your desktop. I mean, the icons would be installed, would be installed on your desktop. Okay. But if you wanted to notice, click on programs. Okay, click on HP software, or if you have installed the latest version, instead of HP software, it would say micro focus. Okay, and this is where you will be able to see all the 3 components. Let me see, my session is getting recorded. Yes, it is getting recorded. Okay, so go to all programs, go to HP software, HP LoadRunner, and this is where you will be able to see all the components: virtual user generator, controller, and analysis. Okay, if you are wondering where is this 4th component, if you are wondering, so Kumar, you said there are 3 components, so 4 components. Where is this 4th component? Okay, where is this 4th component? So okay, so here, if you see at the taskbar, can you see this LoadRunner agent access where my cursor is? Yeah, this is where your agent process is. It's a background process which will be always running. It's a background process which will be always running. Okay, if you wanted, you can right click on it and you can see about. You can see about. It clearly says that it's a LoadRunner agent process. Okay, so it's a background process which will be running. So you'll not be able to see that. You'll not be able to see that. It's a process. Okay, so if you wanted to be doubly sure, as to if this process is running or not, what I can show you is, go to the task manager. Usually by default you will be in the applications. Go to processes. What is the process, guys? What is the process? Can somebody tell me what is the process? What is the process? Can somebody tell me what is the process?
A code.
Okay, a program or code.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. I can hear you. Please go ahead. Anybody can tell me what is the process? A program or a code which is under execution. Okay, if it is not under execution, it's just called as a program or a code. But the same program is under the execution, you no longer call that as a program, but you call that as a process. Okay, code under execution. Wonderful. A program which is under execution, you can call that as a process. So here you can see the processes. So which means that these are all the programs which are under the execution. These are all the programs which are under the execution. You see, I have Skype on my system. I haven't opened, but it's continuously executing, and it has kicked off how many processes? 3 processes. And I have opened a notepad. You see, I have opened a notepad. There is a program which is running underneath, or a process. You see, this process which is notepad.exe belongs to what? A notepad. Okay, I have opened a PowerPoint. I've opened a PowerPoint, and you see powerpnt.exe. There is a program which is running underneath. So same winword.exe. Okay, there is a process which is running. So like this, a program which is under the execution is nothing but the process. Okay, you can see all the processes which are running on your system like this. Okay, so here the LoadRunner agent process should be there as well. Okay, if you pay a little bit of attention, you see magnetproc.exe. You see this is HP LoadRunner agent process, and if you hover over this, it says the same thing, LoadRunner agent process. So that agent process is running. This agent process is running, and this is the one which will give you the virtual users, and this is the one which will give you the virtual users. So Kumar, you said the program under execution is nothing but the process. Okay, so if I close this Windows Microsoft Excel, okay, so then the program is no longer under execution, then it's not a process. If that is so, it should not show up over here, which means that this process which is belonging to Windows, winword.exe, which belongs to Microsoft Office Word, which is a process at this point of time. As soon as I close this window, then that particular program should not run. So the process should close as well. So does this happen? We will check it, guys. Watch carefully. This process over here, winword.exe. So if I close this particular program, okay, which means that the program is not under execution, which means that it's no longer a process, so it should not be there over here. If you watch carefully, that process has disappeared. If you watch carefully, the process has disappeared. Okay, because as soon as you close Windows, the program is no longer under execution. If the program is no longer under execution, it's not a process anymore. So it's not showing up over here. Again, if I open this Windows, again the process called winword.exe will open, because as soon as you open this Windows, the Microsoft Word. As soon as I open this Microsoft Word, okay, the related process has kicked off, if you can see. And the memory, how much of your RAM it is taking? Close to 8 MB. Close to 8 MB RAM it is taking, which is 7980 KB. Okay, so if I close this particular Word, the related process should close as well, which you can clearly see it over here. Okay, if I close this notepad, then the related process, which is notepad.exe, should close as well, or should shut down as well, because the program is no longer under execution. Okay, so without your knowledge, there are 3 processes which are running for Skype. Okay, I can kill this process if I don't want. Okay, so any program under execution is a process. So LoadRunner, as soon as you start, this LoadRunner process automatically starts without you starting it. Okay, it automatically starts, and the proof for that is over here. Which is magnetproc.exe. Okay, what is the process for this LoadRunner agent? Okay, magnetproc.exe. Sometimes some people in the interviews, they will ask you, okay, do we have to start the process for LoadRunner agent, or do we have to start the LoadRunner agent? Okay, the idea is, as soon as you restart the system, or as soon as you open the system, or once you start the system, automatically this program starts without your knowledge, and as soon as the program starts, it's called as a process. And what is that process which runs underneath for the LoadRunner agent? It is magnetproc.exe. Okay, some people in the interview, they might ask. So Kumar, in that case, if I start the VueGen, there is a process that starts for VueGen as well. Yes, you see, as soon as I open the VueGen, there is a process that starts for the VueGen as well. Okay, so let's see what is that process. Let's search for that. If you have found it, let me know. You see, description VueGen, and what is the process which starts for the VueGen? VueGen.exe. This one you need not have to remember. Okay, but sometimes some people will ask, or else if they don't ask as well, while explaining, you can say that, the load generator, using this process called magnetproc.exe will create the virtual users. That's something that you can tell. Okay. Now I have shown you all the 4 process. You can clearly see these 3 process from the program or from the start, but this is the process of the program which runs behind the scenes, and I have also shown you which process will start for this. Again, tell me guys, which process is working underneath for this load generators? Just give me a moment guys.
Magnetproc.exe.
Okay, thank you guys. So now if you go back to our performance testing life cycle guys, okay, sorry, if you go back to the performance testing life cycle, the first one is non-functional requirement gathering or the analysis. Second one is your test strategy or the test planning phase. Okay, and the third one is the test design or development. What would happen in this phase guys? What is the output of this phase? Can somebody please tell me what is the output of this phase?
Scripts generation.
Wonderful. The scripts would be created, and the scripts would be created using this component called virtual user generator or VueGen. Which is the first component of the LoadRunner. Okay, so almost in every phase of performance testing life cycle, there is a component of LoadRunner guys, except the first two. You can use an Excel sheet for this, and you can use a Microsoft Word for this. Okay. But for the third phase, for creating the test scripts, you need the virtual user generator. Okay. Now the fourth phase, which is the test execution, you have the phase called controller. You take the scripts and start executing the scripts, and you use the component called controller. And for the for the fifth phase, which is the test results phase, you use the component called analysis. So for the test design, where you create the test scripts, you need the virtual user generator. For execution of the script, which is the fourth phase, you use the component called controller. And the last phase for using the analysis, for doing the analysis, you use the component called analysis. Okay. So for each phase, okay, you have a component: virtual user generator, which is popularly called it as VueGen, controller, and analysis. Okay. Now you watch carefully, guys. Okay. Let's start the first component, which is the virtual user generator. Popularly call it as VueGen, guys. V stands for virtual, U stands for user, Gen stands for generator. Virtual user generator. As you can see, VueGen is the main component of LR, which is used to create the scripts to simulate the user actions. Okay, so what is the main purpose of the virtual user generator? It is used to create the scripts which we have just understood. In the last In the last slide, we have already understood it is used for creating the scripts. Okay. Now, first thing we'll understand why to create the scripts in the first place. Okay. You might be understanding if somebody who's completely layman, okay, who hasn't used any of the testing tools ever before, okay, this is the first thing which comes to your mind. Okay. Why to create the scripts? Why to create the scripts? Okay. Remember that performance testing is done by the virtual users, not real users. Okay. This point is well established in the first week. Okay. It is done by the virtual users, not real users. Okay. So if you pay a little more attention, these virtual users are just the machine generated users, They don't know how to log into your application. Okay. They don't know how to check a mail. They don't know how to delete a mail. They don't know how to compose a mail. They don't know any of these activities. If it's a real user, you train them and they will be doing it. But if it's a virtual user as well, you have to train them. Okay. If it's a real user, you have to train them. Okay. Yeah, Kumar, I know Gmail. Why I need the training? Yeah, I totally agree with you. But let's say application under test is an insurance application. Okay. You haven't used any time before. Okay. It's a completely new type of application, which is an insurance application, and you haven't used it before. So you need the training as well. Okay. Any performance tester need the training as well. I mean, to start off with. So yeah, completely if the application is new, yeah, you haven't seen it before, you haven't heard it before, yeah, you need the training as well. So similarly, the virtual users need the training as well. Okay. So the training is done using the scripts. Okay. So how? So this above functionality, what is this functionality? Logging into the application, checking the mail or deleting the mail. Okay. So we need to create the scripts with the above functionality. Let's see how do we train these virtual users. Okay. So we create the scripts. So what is that we will do? We create the scripts with the above functionality. The above functionality is logging in, checking the mail, composing the mail, deleting the mail, attaching the mail. So we'll create the scripts with the above functionality. Okay. Let's say you have created a script for login script. Okay. Let's say you have created a login script. Now let's see what happens if you execute the scripts. So if you execute the scripts, so the script will log you into the application. Okay. The script will log you into the application because it's a login script. You have created this login script, and now if you execute the script, we should be able to log into the application. Now if you have created this script, okay, now let's say you have created the script for check mail and you execute the script, what would happen? A mail will be checked. You created a script called compose mail and you execute this compose mail script, what would happen? A mail will be composed. You created a script called delete mail and you execute this script called delete mail. So what would you happen when you execute or when you run this delete mail script? A mail will be deleted. So any program, you will have an output. Here the output is you will either log into the script or application or compose a mail or delete a mail or attach a mail. So depending upon what script you have created, that particular functionality or activity would happen. So finally, what you would do, you assign the script to the virtual users so that the virtual user will continue to execute the script. And that particular functionality will happen. Okay. That particular functionality will happen. And the beauty about this LoadRunner tool is you can not only assign the script to one user, but you can assign the script to multiple users. So you not only can assign to one user, but you can assign the script to multiple users. This is a very important thing that you need to understand. But in the virtual user, you can assign the script to only one virtual user, not more than one. If you wanted to assign this script to multiple virtual users, you have to use the component called controller. Okay. Then why are we discussing this in a chapter called VUGen? Okay. I wanted you to get an idea right away. I wanted to get an idea right away that I wanted you to get an idea right away that yeah, assigning the script to multiple users is possible, but it is possible using the component called controller. But this is very important. But with VUGen, we can assign the script to only one virtual user, or we can run it with only one user. This is a very important point, guys. But with VUGen, we can assign the script to only one virtual user. Okay, one virtual user. But with the controller, we can assign it to multiple virtual users. That also we will see. But the important point is with VUGen, you will be able to assign it to only one virtual user. Okay. Now let's see what would happen. With these scripts. Okay, watch carefully. This is a very important thing. If you understand this next 10 minutes, you will know what exactly would happen in a test, in a load test, or in any of these tests. Okay, so before I proceed further, okay, now I'll ask you a simple question. Load test is run for how much time? Load test is run for how long, guys?
1 hour.
Run for how long? 1 hour. 1 hour. Okay. This is something which we have established long time back. Okay. So typically you don't run a test for one iteration or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You need to run the test for 1 hour. Why? Because we want to assess. Okay. Assess the performance for a good amount of time before we conclude if the application is fast or not. Okay, so why we need to run this for 1 hour? We already discussed that a load test would be run for 1 hour. But why run 1 hour? Because you don't want to run for just once and you say, oh, the performance is good. Okay, so you see, you have taken the test drive. Our Mark has taken the test drive, that Audi car. Okay, he didn't go for 1 minute or few seconds. He went for 1 hour so that he can assess it properly as to whether this car is good enough for him or not. Whatever you do, whenever we buy something, we want to take the product and we wanted to assess it for some time before we make this decision that we wanted to purchase it or not. So similarly, you wanted to check if the performance is good enough or not. We wanted to do it for 1 hour, or we wanted to assess it over a period of time and make sure, and give your judgment if that performance is good or not. So typically you do that for 1 hour. And let's see. Okay, so Phil, I'll take those questions a little later. Okay, so now, okay, so we'll do it for 1 hour. This is something we have established. Now, let's see what would happen in that 1 hour. Okay, so now watch carefully, guys. So here is the script. Okay, here is the script. Here is the script. You assign this to first virtual user. So what that virtual user do, and let's say this is a login script. That you have assigned to the first virtual user. What would happen? He will run for one iteration. Okay, Okay, let's say that has taken 10 minutes. But he has to run for 1 hour, right? Again, he will run the same. Script. Okay, like this, he will continue to run for 1 hour. Okay, don't worry about this right now. When the time is appropriate, I'll talk about these places. Okay, but one thing that you need to understand is one virtual user will not run the script for only once. He will run that script for multiple times. These multiple times, we call this as multiple iterations. So let's say we have assigned this script for the second virtual user as well. So the second virtual user also runs this script. So watch carefully what would happen. He will run for first iteration, then the second iteration, then the third iteration, until our 1 hour is done. until 1 hour is done. Okay, if you're wondering that the virtual user will run the script for only once, no, he will run the script for multiple iterations. Second virtual user also will run the script for multiple iterations. So like this, the virtual users will run for multiple iterations until that 1 hour is done, until that 1 hour is done, until that 1 hour is done. Okay. So this is a very, very important point, guys. Okay. Each virtual user will run or execute the script for multiple iterations in 1 hour. Multiple iterations in 1 hour. Okay. So Kumar, this is very, very confusing. Okay. I didn't get it 100%. Okay. I agree with you. Not an issue. Okay. If you haven't understood, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. I'll definitely get to when I get to that point called workload modeling, you will totally understand that. You will totally understand that. Okay, but for now, if you understood, it's well and good. If you haven't understood, it's still fine. Okay. So we use a script. The actions performed by the human users are recorded in the form of the script. That's what I've been telling you, like login or check mail or compose mail, that will be recorded in the form of script. The scripts, when replayed, emulate the real users performing the business action. So this is what the virtual user scripts are. Okay. Now the next question is, how can I create the scripts? How can I create the scripts? Okay. So far it is clear, guys. So far it is clear. If you haven't understood this part, it is fine. If you haven't understood, okay. If you haven't understood this point, it is still clear. It is still okay. Okay. But others, I hope it is clear. Other points, I hope it is clear. Okay. So, yeah, thank you guys. So how can I create the scripts? Okay. Now, if you're wondering that, for creating the scripts, we need to develop the code from the scratch. Okay. We start creating the code from the scratch or writing this code from the scratch. You're totally wrong. Okay. You're totally wrong. You need not have to do it from the scratch. You need not have to do it from the scratch. So that's the beauty of Vusion. That's the beauty of Vusion. All we have to do is we have to record it and Vusion will develop it for you. They develop the code for you. So you wanted a check mail script, you just record the check mail script and automatically the Vusion will create the scripts for the check mail. Let's say you wanted to create a compose mail script, you record the compose mail script and automatically the Vusion underneath will create the compose mail. Okay. So now the immediately next question, again completely new to LoadRunner or any tools. Okay, tools. Okay, so you don't understand this concept of recording. You don't understand this concept called recording, and you might be wondering why to record the script in the first place. Okay, why to record the script in the first place. Okay, now let me take an example of our Mark. Okay, so Mark is a rich guy. Okay, he's throwing a party. Okay, so our Jessica Simpson came to Mark's house. Okay, I know she's a very, very popular, but I don't think she would come to anybody's houses to just sing. But let's say Mark is very powerful and all that. So let's say and Jessica Simpson has gracefully came to that event. Okay, made her presence in that event. So he came to Mark's house because it's a big party. Okay, so obviously if Jessica Simpson would come to somebody's house, what is the first thing you would ask? Like, can you sing for me? Can you sing for me? Okay, then Jessica Simpson started singing for Mark, okay, in his party. And what people have done is, as Jessica Simpson is singing, I mean, she's not a small lady. I mean, she's a big singer. Okay. So Mark started recording, on his phone. Why? So that he can hear or overheat, or he can later hear over and over. Okay, so that he can listen to that song over and over. Okay, why is he recording it on the phone? So that he can listen to the song any number of times, or he can play back that song any number of times, or he can run that song any number of times, and whatever the Jessica Simpson has sang, exactly he will be able to hear the same thing any number of times he wants, because she's not gonna come all the time and sing it for Mark. So what he has done, he smartly recorded it on the phone so that he can play back any number of times. This is exactly what we do. Okay, you see, the very first time Mark will capture the live events and later he can play back any number of times. That is the whole point of recording. So similarly, the same thing we will do it with the VueGen as well. So the very first time, using the VueGen, we will record the live events. These live events could be for logging in, the live events could be for composing the mail, the live events could be for checking the mail or deleting the mail. So you record those for the first time, and after that we can play back any number of times, and the same compose will run any number of times, or delete mail will run any number of times. So that's the whole point. The very first time you record it, and from the second time, you need not have to do the whole thing on the application lively. You just play back the script, and whatever you wanted, the things on your application under test, that will happen automatically. For example, the very first time you have recorded the compose mail script. Now, how can you record the compose mail script? You open the application and you literally compose the mail, and you compose the mail on that application, and underneath VueGen will be recording. Underneath VueGen will be recording all those events. Now the second time around, everything is recorded in the VueGen. You just click on the playback. Or you just click on execute or run. Automatically a mail will be composed. Without you opening the application or without you doing anything on the application, the VueGen itself will compose the mail for you. Okay, so that is the whole concept. Okay. Now, typically 85% of the work will be done by our VueGen, because you record it and VueGen will create the scripts. Okay, so when it comes to creating the scripts, most of the work will be done by the VueGen. You have to do few enhancements and all that. Okay, so that the script is 100% ready. Okay, as we proceed further, we'll look into more and more challenges. When it comes to VueGen and creating the scripts. But we'll start nice and slow. We'll take the simple concepts one at a time. I'll continue to give the assignments as the demonstration of the script starts. Okay, so as you do the assignments, you will learn more. Okay, so the next thing is, the scripts are created in the C language or the Java language. Okay, so Kumar, what is the proof? Okay, I'm going to show you the proof, guys. So let me open the VueGen. The scripts are recorded in this VueGen, right? Okay, let me create a new scripts. File, new script and solution. Okay, let me create a new script. Okay, so there is something called recording options. Go to the recording options and you go to the script. Okay, so this is just to show you the proof, guys. Again, I will tell you the scripts very, very clearly when we are using the VueGen, but to show you the proof that the language that is used underneath is C and JavaScript. You can see what is that? C and JavaScript. Okay, C and JavaScript. Okay, but for some other protocols, okay, let me add a script with a different protocols. We know that LoadRunner supports multiple protocols. Okay, let me open a script for SAP GUI protocol. Okay, now for this SAP GUI protocol, if I go to the runtime options, okay, how many programming language it will support? Only C. Okay, across all the protocols, C language is supported. But if you're talking about VueGen, if you're talking about web HTTP HTML protocol, okay, it will support C and JavaScript. But if you're talking in general about the other protocols, okay, it will support only C. This is the point to be noted, guys. Okay. Okay, this is the point to be noted. Okay, so now I'll take a break, guys. I'll take a break. Okay. Once I come back, okay, we'll talk about the other points. But today, please expect the class to go a little longer than expected, guys. I usually leave it around 8:30 a.m. India IST. So expect the class to go for 15 to 20 more minutes. 15 to 20 more minutes. Very, very interesting and very important class today. Extremely important class today. Okay, don't please leave halfway through. Extremely important. Okay, if you don't understand, please ask the questions again so that you'll understand it 100%. Now I'm stopping the recording and putting you on mute. Please don't go anywhere, guys. There's very, very interesting things to learn today. Please, can you hear me? Thank you, Rupa. So guys, let's get started from where we left off. Okay. So guys, are we ready? All of you? Okay. So if you would have paid enough attention, as you see, all the scripts which are generated in the Vusion, they are all of that they are in the C language, and for some of the protocols it also supports JavaScript. We have seen the proof as well by opening the tool. Okay, I've created one script which is HTTP HTML, and if you go to the recording options, it is clearly showing in the script, it is clearly showing it is supporting C and JavaScript. Okay, so if you go to the SAP GUI protocol script, and if you open the recording options, and it is clearly showing that it is supporting the C. So most of the scripts for all the protocols, for most of the protocols, it supports C language, and for some of them it will support both C and JavaScript. Okay. Now the scripts are generated. The scripts are usually generated by recording the events between client and server. This is very, very important, guys. This is very, very important. Okay. If you go back to our standard entire architecture, wherein you have a web server and app servers and database servers with a load balancer. Okay. Now you have sent a request. The servers, all these servers will work on your request and will send the response back. So the events will be recorded on this network. Okay, if you are wondering that the events will be recorded on the screen, whatever you're doing on the screen, the recording is happening on the screen. No, the recording is happening on the network level. So what is my Vusion is doing? My Vusion is actually capturing the events, the communication between client and server, recording these events, the communication that is happening between client and server on the network level or on the socket level. On the socket level, it will be capturing the events. Okay, it is not capturing the events on the screen level. Typical. Okay, for some protocols it does, like SAP GUI protocol and Ajax True Client, it will be capturing it from the screen. But typically for our web HTTP HTML protocol, the events will be recorded from on the socket level or on the network level. Or it will look into this network to see how the request and response request is going on and the response is coming back, and it will be capturing those events. Okay. As you can see, Vusion creates the scripts by recording the activity between client and server when user performs actions on the application. As the user is performing the actions on the applications, the request will be sent in and the response you will get back, and that events it will be capturing. The Vusion will be capturing those events. As the requests are going in and as the response is coming back. Okay. Typically does not record on the screen level for web HTTP HTML protocol. Again, I'm repeating, guys, for only web HTTP HTML or for certain protocols, it will not record from the screen. But for certain protocols, it will record on the screen. For example, SAP GUI protocol and Ajax True Client. Okay. And Vusion, last option, Vusion component provides the performance tester with a replay option. If you don't trust me, okay, as you can see here, okay, so it will be recording from the screen. You can play back using this button. Okay, once you recorded the script onto the Vusion, you will be able to play back the script from the Vusion using this replay button. Okay, Shraddha, I'll take the class offline after the class. Okay, so there's two questions, one from Phil, one from Shraddha. I'll take that offline. Okay. Now, the most important thing is the scripts are executed using Vision for not applying the load. It is done for the debugging purpose only. Okay, later on you will understand this point, but this is very, very important point. The Vision has given this option called playback or replay or execute only to check if the script is working fine or not, or debug the script, or making sure there are no issues with the script. But actual application of the load happens using another component called controller. Okay, we are using this tool called LoadRunner. Why? We are using this tool called LoadRunner. Why? To apply the load on the application, and then while the application is under load, you look at the response times. So with the Vision, we'll be able to only create the scripts. That's about it. Okay, but we'll not be able to apply the load on the application. For applying the load on the application, we'll completely use another component called controller. We'll completely use another component called controller. Okay. Okay. So this is the first point, guys. The first point. Scripts are played back or replayed back or executed in the Vision not to apply the load, on the application under test. It is just to make sure our scripts are working fine or not. Our scripts are working fine or not. This is a very, very important point. Okay. With Vision, playback can be done with how many users? This is something that we have discussed at the starting of the class. With Vision, playback can be done with how many virtual users? With only one virtual user. With only one virtual user. Again, a very, very important point. Okay. So this is extremely important, guys. When you play back the script with certain number of virtual users, only then we can create the load. Okay. With one virtual, if you're playing back with one virtual users, you're not creating any load on the application. Very, very minimal load or almost zero load. Only when you play back with multiple virtual users, this is when you will create the load on the application. And with virtual user generator, you will not be able to play back with multiple virtual users. So there is a necessity for the next component or another component. With Vision, you can only run with one virtual users, but only if you can run with multiple virtual users, then you will be able to create the load. So that is the reason why you need another component. That is the reason why you need another component. And this is why the controller comes into picture. This is when the controller comes into picture. As you can see, playback with more than one user is possible using the component called controller. Using the component called controller, you will be able to play back with more than one virtual user. More than one virtual user. So for clear, guys, Vision, I know there are some doubts, couple of doubts, but I'll take that offline after the class. Okay. Other than those, there are any other questions? One is Shraddha, recording the screen means, and second one is Phil, if an iteration takes more than 45 minutes. Okay. I'll take those questions offline because it needs a little bit of explanation. Okay. Other than those two questions, any more questions, guys? Okay. If I'm going little fast today, please suggest. Okay, I'll adjust the pace accordingly. Okay. But if this pace is okay, we can proceed further. Okay. So now watch carefully what we can do in the controller, guys. Watch carefully what we can do in the controller. This is very, very important. This is very, very important. Okay. So guys, okay. Let's say we have created two scripts. What is those two scripts? Check mail and delete mail scripts using the Vision. Okay. So check mail and delete mail scripts using the Vision. Okay. So now we know using the Vision, we will be able to create multiple scripts. We will be able to create scripts. Okay. So using this component called Vision, what all the scripts we have created? We have created two scripts. One is check mail script and one is delete mail script. Okay. We have created the scripts. Now, as a performance tester, this happens in which phase, guys? This happens in which phase of performance testing life cycle? Can somebody tell me in which phase of performance testing life cycle we create the scripts? I want
Design and development.
Sorry?
Design and development.
Wonderful. Test, design and development phase. We'll use the component called Vuegen and create the scripts. Typically in the real-time projects, you will create 10 to 15 scripts or maybe 20 scripts. But here, let's assume we have created only 2 scripts. One is check mail script and one is delete mail script. Okay. Now what you do, you execute them or you play back those scripts or execute those scripts in the Vuegen separately just to make sure they are working fine. Just to make sure they are working fine. If there are no issues with the scripts, you play back those scripts. Okay. Now you see what happens. Using the component called controller, all the scripts will be executed simultaneously or concurrently. Using the component called controller, you execute all the scripts simultaneously. You execute all these scripts simultaneously. Okay. But not only simultaneously, but also with certain number of virtual users. Okay. Not only simultaneously, but also with certain number of virtual users. This will create the load on the application under test. This is what will create the load on the application under test. If you haven't understood that point, if you look at this picture, you will understand. Okay, you see here I have considered only 2 scripts, but in the real world you would have 10 to 15 scripts or more depending upon what you have collected as a part of NFR. In the NFR, you will collect the transaction performance critical transactions, right? You will collect. If you remember, the second thing that you collect as a part of NFRs is what? The performance critical transactions. So let's say you have collected 30, then you will have to create 30 scripts. If you have collected 20 performance critical transactions or business process as a part of NFR, you will have to create 20 scripts. If you have collected 15, then you create 15 scripts. Are we clear, guys? Are we clear? What is the first step? What is the first step? NFR gathering. Okay. In NFR gathering, you collect something called performance critical transactions or business process. Okay. Performance critical transactions or business process. Okay. So let's say you have collected how many? Okay. Based on 3 factors, you will do it. They should be either frequently used or they should be business critical or high usage intensive, high resource intensive. Based on that, you have collected 15 business process or transactions. Now you tell me how many scripts you will create. 15 scripts using Vuegen. 15 scripts using Vuegen. Okay. This is the case study I'm taking, guys. This is the case study. Okay. This is the case study I'm taking. Okay. For this application called, let's say, Bank of America. Okay. BOFA or Bank of America. Okay. As a part of NFR gathering, you have collected 15 business process or 15 performance critical transactions. Now, when you come to the next phase, next phase, which is the design phase, how many scripts you will create? 15 scripts. Using which component? Vuegen component. Okay? Using Vuegen component. Now these 15 scripts will be executed in the controller. 15 scripts will be executed where? In the component called controller. Okay, again, as I've told you, this will be executed concurrently or simultaneously, which means that all the 15 scripts will be executed together. All the 15 scripts will be executed together. All the 15 scripts will be executed together. Okay, then you will get the results. The output of this phase is what? Results. And then using the component called analysis, or analyzer, some people will also call it as analyzer. Okay, we will do further analysis of these results. Okay, now there are some questions. Let me see. How many scripts do you typically need to do the load test? Phil, there is no number. It totally depends upon how many you have collected as a part of NFRs. There was one project wherein I had to create 42 scripts. There was one project wherein I had to create only 7 scripts. And there was one project wherein I had to create only close to 18 scripts. So it totally depends upon how many performance critical transactions you have collected as a part of NFRs. Okay. So there is no minimum or maximum number. It totally depends on the project and how your application is and what you have collected as a part of NFR. Okay. Now you see our controller is configured for 2 things. Okay. So number of scripts that needs to be executed and each script needs to be executed with certain number of virtual users. That will also be. Okay, so a number of scripts that you need to execute, and each script should be executed with how many virtual users. You will configure both of them in the component called controller. Okay. Now, okay, let's say we have considered only 2 scripts, right? Not 15 scripts or 40 scripts. We have considered only 2 scripts. One is check mail script and one is delete mail script. One is check mail script and one is delete mail script. Okay, so you upload these 2 scripts into the controller, or you add these 2 scripts into the controller. Okay, so now this is called group, guys. This is called group. Okay, this is called group. Okay, so this is a check mail group. As you can see, this is a check mail group. Okay, so this is called another group. This is also called another group. You can call this as a delete mail group. Now you tell me, if I have uploaded 10 scripts, how many groups I will have? If I have uploaded 10 scripts, how many groups I have? How many minimum groups I have? If I have uploaded 10 scripts, how many groups I have? 10 groups. Okay, if I have uploaded 10 scripts, okay, if I uploaded 10 scripts, how many groups I have? 10 groups. I will have 10 groups. Okay, so all these groups together, we call this as a test scenario. All these groups together, we call this as a test scenario. All these groups together, we call it as a test scenario. Are we clear, guys? Okay, 10 scripts you have created in the vision, or we say 15 scripts. Okay, we go with the same business flow or the case study. Okay, there are 15 scripts. Then how many groups you have? Minimum is 15 groups. And all these 15 groups is called test scenario. All these 15 groups, we call it as test scenario. So Kumar, you use the word called minimum. Okay, minimum. Why? You use the word called minimum. If I have 15 scripts, you use the word called minimum 15 groups, which means that can we have more groups? Yes. Can we have more groups? Yes. I'll tell you a simple thing. I'll show you now. Okay. Don't try to understand how I am adding the scripts and all that, but just concentrate on the groups. Later on, when I show the controller, I'll show you how to add step by step very slowly. But now I wanted to demonstrate something for you. Concentrate on that. Okay. So with what I will demonstrate, instead of 15 scripts, I'll take how many scripts? Only 3 scripts. Okay, and see, I will make how many groups? See, 6 groups I will make. 6 groups I will make. Watch carefully. Okay, I'll take 3 scripts and I will make 6 groups. Minimum how many groups you need with 3 scripts? Minimum is 3 groups. Okay, minimum is 3 groups. Can we have more than 3 groups? Yes. Now I'm going to demonstrate it for you how we can have 6 groups. Okay, once you open the controller, we have to select manual scenario. Click on OK. We'll have manual scenario. Click on OK. Don't worry about this controller. Don't worry about understanding all these panes and all that. Okay. For adding the groups, you just have to click over here and select the scripts that you wanted, and you can add. So I'm adding this script, Ajax click and script. Okay. Now again I will add the same script. It is possible. Okay. Now the second one, I will add book flight tickets. Okay. Again I will add the book flight tickets. Okay. So now I'll add this script called demo date. Okay, or cancel flight, and again I will add this cancel flight. Okay. How many scripts are there? Honestly, how many scripts are there? There are only 3 scripts. What are these 3 scripts? Adjust click and script, book flight tickets, and cancel flight. Okay. So there are only 3 scripts. How many scripts I have taken? There are only 3 scripts. What are these 3 scripts, guys? What are these 3 scripts? Let's look at these 3 scripts. What are these? Ajax click and script. Okay, that's the script. Okay, if Ajax click and script is confusing you, let me take another script. Okay, one is cancel flight I have taken. One is book flight tickets I have taken. Okay, one is login or something I'll take. Hang on. Login. Okay, so login. Okay, so what are the scripts I have taken, guys? I have taken the login script. Okay, and I have taken the book flight tickets. Okay, and I have taken the cancel flight. Okay, I have taken these 3 scripts. Okay, but how many groups I have made? 6 groups. Is it possible? Yes. In what cases we need this and all that, we will discuss that later. Okay, why we are adding the same script twice, we will discuss that later. Let's not worry about it. But at this point of time, you need to understand that with minimum scripts, I mean with lesser number of scripts, we can have more number of groups. It is possible. Only that you remember, only that you understand. Okay, you see, each one is a group. This is a group, this is a group with the number of virtual users. How many? 10 here. This is another group with the same script, but how many users? 10 users. You see, each one is a group. Each one is a group. Now all these 6 groups will make my test scenario. All these 6 groups will make my test scenario. With how many scripts you made these 6 groups? With only 3 scripts. With only 3 scripts. Yes, it is possible to create more groups with less number of scripts. But in what cases we will use that? We will look into that later. But right now, just understand that it is possible to create more groups with different. Yes, Phil. Yes, Phil. What you said is true, but a lot of people here doesn't even know runtime settings at this point of time. So let's look at that. Once I introduce the concept called runtime settings, we'll look into that. But right now, just understand that, yeah, with this minimum number of groups, the minimum number of scripts, we can make more groups. Okay? Now, all these groups together, we call them what? All these groups together, we call them what? Test scenario. All these groups will make a test scenario. Will make a test scenario. Okay? So as I said, can a test scenario can have more than 2 groups? Certainly yes. It totally depends upon your scripts. Let's say if there is a banking application and you have created 15 scripts, which is possibility, which I have done in one of the projects. How many groups you will have? How many groups you will have? You will have 50 groups, minimum 50 groups. As I've said, minimum 50 groups, you can have more groups as well. Minimum 50 groups, you can have more groups as well. Okay? Now, the next question. Is it clear so far, guys? Is it clear so far? I think Shraddha has asked a question. So, this is one single group. Yes. Shraddha, is it clear? Is it clear? Each one is a group. All the groups together will be one scenario. Shraddha, your question is not 100% clear. Shraddha, so this will be one single group. When you said this will be, I hope you have understood that. Shraddha? Yeah.
Yes.
In controller, we can replay the code. Is it correct? Yes, yes, Naresh. We'll replay the code. We'll replay the code. Okay? We'll replay it in Vuegen as well, but with only one virtual user. But in the controller, we'll replay with multiple virtual users. And only multiple virtual users will apply the load or will create the load on the application of the test. Naresh, are we clear? Wonderful, Naresh. Okay, now the next question is, Kumar, okay, there are 50 scripts. Why are we executing all the 50 scripts at once? Okay, so what will happen? You upload these 50 scripts into the controller. You upload these 50 scripts into the controller, and each script you are telling that you wanted to run with certain number of virtual users. Like account summary, you wanted to run with 200 virtual users. Statement history, 100 virtual users. Balance transfer, 50 virtual users, and all of that. Then there is a run button over here, and you click on the run button. All these scripts will be executed simultaneously, which we have been discussing, and not only with one user, with those many users. Okay, account summary will be executed with 200 virtual users. Once you click on run button, all these scripts are executed parallelly or simultaneously, that too with multiple virtual users. That too with multiple virtual users. Why? Why we need to execute with why simultaneously, but why not separately of one after another? Why not separately one after another? We'll look into that, guys. We'll look into that. Any guesses, guys? Any guesses? Why we are executing all of them simultaneously, but why not we execute one after another?
To apply the load.
Wonderful, Shraddha. Wonderful. Okay? Wonderful. Yeah? It's a real time. Real time. Wonderful, Kausalya. Wonderful. So, let's go back to our Gmail. Okay? At this moment in time. So, what is the time in India right now? Okay? What is the time in India right now? 8:24 p.m. Okay? What is the time now? 8:24 a.m. Sorry, 8:24 a.m. Okay? So, this is IST, guys. This is IST. Okay? This is the time which is there in India. At this moment, let's go back to our Gmail. At this moment, you go back to our Gmail. Some of them will be checking the mail. Okay? all over the world. Gmail is used all over the world. Some of them are checking the mail, some of them are deleting the mail, some of them are sending the mails. Okay, different people are doing different things at this point of time, which is 8:24 a.m. Okay, 8:24 a.m. India time, 8:24 a.m. India time. Different people are doing different things on the application. Different people are doing different things on the application. Okay, so okay, we can execute. So different people are doing different things on the application. So we have to simulate the same thing in our performance testing environment as well. So we have to take our performance testing scenario or performance testing execution of the scenario as close to the real world as possible, as close to the real world as possible. In the real world, all these functionalities are happening at the same point of time. So in our performance testing world as well, all this should happen at the same point of time. All this should happen at the same point of time. So that is the reason why we create all these scripts called check mail, delete mail, send mail and all that, and we execute them simultaneously or concurrently, but not separately. Because that's what is happening in the real world. That too, check mail, maybe 500 people are checking the mail at this point of time. Delete mail, 30 people may be deleting the mail at the same point of time. So that is what we are doing. That is what we are doing by assigning this users, by assigning this number of users, by assigning this number of users. Okay. So that is the reason why we have to simulate this same thing in the performance testing as well. Okay, we take the sample case study. Okay, we take the sample case study quickly so that you get a 100% picture now. Okay, let's say we are doing the performance testing for a banking application. As a part of NFR, we have collected 50 performance critical transactions or 50 performance critical business process. Once we have collected as a part of NFR, now when you come to the test design phase, you create 50 scripts in the region for all the NFRs that you have collected. So now what you do as a performance tester, you execute each script separately. To make sure they are running without any issues. Okay. So now let's suppose again as a part of NFR, what they have given you, you're supposed to run the test with 1000 concurrent users. They have given you that you're supposed to run the test with 1000 concurrent users. Okay. Now all the 50 scripts are put together in the controller and assign the 1000 user load and you execute them. Okay, now you see all the 50 scripts put together in the controller. Let's say account summary. Okay, now you break down this 1000 users for whatever is required for this account summary. Let's say 200 is for account summary. Okay, statement history, 100 users are for statement history. Okay, balance transfer, let's say 50 users are for balance transfer and something else, okay, that is for 100 users. So like this, you break down this 1000 concurrent users across all these scripts, okay, and when you add all this number of users, how much the count should come to? When you add all this number of users across these 50 scripts, when you add all of this, how much it should come to? 1000. How much you should come to? 1000, because you are supposed to run the test with 1000 concurrent users. You break down this 1000 users across all these scripts, account summary 200, statement history 100, balance transfer is 50, account payee is something else, okay, logout is something else. So when you add all those number of users, it should come to 1000 users. Okay. Now finally, once you execute them, you will have the results. You open the results in the component called analysis. In the component called analysis, and you check for the response times and also other things. And also you do the further analysis. You check for the response times and you do the further analysis. For example, as part of the NFRs, these are the NFRs that you have received for the response times, or these are the SLAs that you have received for the response times. Now, in these 50 scripts, you have multiple transactions, which are all of simple transactions. they should be less than 2 seconds. Which all transactions which are medium complexity, that is 5 seconds, should be less than 5 seconds, and which are all complex, it should be less than 8 seconds. It should be less than 8 seconds. Okay, so so this is what it is. So this is what it is. So are we clear with the sample case study, guys? You got a picture as what you will do as a part of performance testing. You got a picture as to what you will do as a part of performance testing, guys. Everybody, are we clear? If you want me to repeat, I'll do it. But this is very, very important. This is the whole flow. This is the complete flow as what you do in the performance testing, starting from the NFR gathering for creating the scripts, for the execution in the controller, and finally the analysis. Okay? Are we clear? Are we clear, everybody, guys? Are we clear?
Can you explain the group concept in this case study?
Group concept, I'll talk that later, Shraddha. When we go to the controllers, we'll start that. But right now, 50 scripts are there. You will have 50 groups here. Okay. Now there you see, 50 scripts are there. You have 50 groups. If you want, you can have more groups as well. But when we will have more groups, we'll talk about that. But is it okay, Shraddha? There are 50 scripts and there are 50 groups here. Okay. And this 1000 concurrent users are broken across all the 50 groups. This is what I can explain at this point of time. But sometimes you might have more groups, that I'll talk about it later. Okay? Is it clear, guys? Yeah. But Shraddha, what I can tell you about the groups is, there are, for this case study of business process, as a part of NFR gathering, you have collected 50 scripts, 50 performance critical transactions. So you have created the 50 scripts. So you will have 50 groups in the controller. You will have minimum 50 groups in the controller, and all the 1000 concurrent users will be broken down across these 50 groups. How they are broken also, I'll tell that later as a part of workload modeling. We cannot break these 1000 users randomly like this across 50. We cannot do that. There is a way to break it down. We'll talk about that later. Okay?
So multiple scripts can fall under a single group?
No, it is not possible. Each script means one group. So you have 50 scripts, definitely you have to have 50 groups. You cannot, in a group, you cannot have more than one script. As you see, as soon as you upload a script, this is one group automatically. You upload a statement history script, that's another group. You upload a balance transfer script, that is one group. You cannot have multiple scripts in one group. That is not possible.
Okay.
Okay? Everybody, is it clear, guys? Wonderful, guys. Wonderful. Okay? I'll enhance this sample case study page today, and tomorrow we'll go through the sample case study again with clear pictures and all that. With the clear pictures again, I will go through tomorrow. Okay? But please review this video again today by the end of the day. Okay? And again tomorrow I'll come out with the sample case study. Okay? Now, okay, so okay, so now watch carefully here. Okay, sometimes you see, sometimes not all the script passes. How many scripts you have? 50 scripts. You uploaded it, you run these 50 scripts in the Vusion separately, it is working fine. Now you uploaded all the 50 scripts into the controller and you click on the run button So not all the scripts will pass. Okay, let's assume, okay, since it's a sample case study, let's assume one of these 50 scripts have failed. Okay, so which means that you have to rerun the whole test again. Okay, first we have to identify which script has failed. You have to go back to the Vusion and understand why it is failing, fix any issues which is related to the scripts, upload that script into the controller again, and you have to rerun the test again. You have to rerun your load test again. Okay, so let's assume this is the statement history is the script that is failed. Okay, so you have to identify what is the issue with the script, and then you have to go back to the Vusion, fix the issue, and go back and come back, upload that again fixed issue into the controller and rerun the script. So this is what you will do in the performance testing. In general, these are the things that will happen. So for this same reason, what people will do is they will do something called a shakedown test or a dry run test, and usually this is recommended before the starting of the actual test. If you have done manual testing, there is something called a smoke test or a sanity test. So this shakedown test and a dry run test is more like that. Okay, so if you're going ahead and running the actual load test, okay, if one script is failing and all that, you have to stop it and you have to fix the issue, and you have to rerun the whole test again. So you don't want it to get into that issue. What you will do, you will do a test run. You will do a test run before the actual test. Just like, you bought a car, you do the test drive and make sure everything is working fine and to your satisfaction, then you will purchase the car, right? Similarly, okay, you're playing a game, okay, you're playing a ball game. Okay, you do a warm up, right? You do a warm up just to make sure that you're absolutely ready for the actual game. Before the actual game, you do a warm up, or let's say it is a very, very critical, important game. Okay, let's say it's a World Cup or something like that. Okay, there will be some practice games. Before the actual game. Okay, so in US, I know, football is a very, very important game. Okay, football. So when I was used to there, I'm from a university called University of Oklahoma, and for us, we have a very, very popular team called Sooners. Team called Sooners. Okay, if you are crazy about football, definitely you would have known Sooners. Okay, Okay, so starting of every season, they used to practice. They used to have a practice games. Okay, so we were allowed as a students of the university. We had every opportunity to get into the stadium and look at this practice games completely free of cost. Okay, so these practice games are before the actual season starts or the actual game starts. Okay, so similarly, before the actual test, you do something called a shakedown test or a dry run test. Okay, people call it by different names. Some people call it as a dry run test. Some people call it as a shakedown test. Different people call it by different names. But this is more like a sample test sort of thing before the actual test. Okay, so how this shakedown test or dry run test will, okay, we will test. Okay, so as you see, as the name suggests, it is a mock or a sample test before the actual test. Okay, this is the interview question. You're running a load test. I'll tell you like how they ask you in the interviews. Okay, you're running the actual test. Before the actual test, would you start the actual test just like that, or do you do anything like that? Okay, so before running the actual test, you do something called a sample test or a mock test or a shakedown test or a dry run test. Okay, so now let's say, what is this dry run test or shakedown test? We'll try to understand. Let's say the actual test is executed with 2 scripts with 1,000 users. Let's assume, okay, these 2 scripts are checkmail scripts and delete mail script. Checkmail script you're executing with 600, delete mail script, let's say you're executing with 400 users. Okay, now the shakedown test will not be executed with 1,000 concurrent users. Shakedown test will be executed with 50 users. So something like this, you see, something like this. Check mail 30 users, delete mail 20 users. Okay, we don't have a number. Typically 5% of the actual users should be good enough. Okay, if the actual test is 1,000 users, you can do a shakedown test with maybe 40 or 50 users. Okay, it's totally up to you. And one more thing, actual test is run for 1 hour. We have been discussing this. Why 1 hour also I have told you. Actual test is run for 1 hour, but shakedown test is run for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. 10 or 15 minutes is enough for the shakedown test. Why? Because it's just a sample test or is a mock test. Why we are doing this shakedown test, guys? Why we are doing this shakedown test or dry run test? Okay, there are different reasons. What is the first reason? Are all my scripts are working fine or not? Okay, even though in the example over here, I've just shown you 2, but let's say if there are 50 scripts and you wanted to make sure when these 50 scripts are uploaded into the controller, all the 50 scripts are working fine or not. You wanted to make sure. Okay. Second thing is my environment up and running and not having any issues? Okay. Which environment you do the performance testing, guys? Which environment you do the performance testing? Can you tell me?
Virtual.
Sorry, come again. Which environment we are doing the performance testing? Okay, some people do it in pre-prod, some people, most of the people will do it in performance testing environment. In performance testing environment, some of them maybe depending on your project, you might be doing in the pre-production, but typically we create another environment called performance testing environment and we do it in the performance testing environment. Typically this environment is used only by you and nobody else. Okay, so sometimes it may be down and it can completely gone unnoticed because nobody else is using this environment. So if it is done and nobody else is doing it, nobody else is using it, so it may be down and you might not even know. So you wanted to make sure your environment is up and running, and up and running means all the servers are in a good shape and they are running and there are no issues with the environment. You need to make sure before you run the actual test, and shakedown test will do it, and shakedown test will do it. Okay, and the most important thing is, are there any issues with my data? Are there any issues with my data? Typically the scripts you have to give some data as an input to the scripts. Okay, later on I will tell you, we do a concept called parameterization. As a part of it, we will give some data. We will give some data to the scripts. We'll give some data to the scripts. So you need to make sure that there are no issues with the data. There is no issues with the data. And finally, each group will have something called LGs, which I will talk later. Okay, each group will have some LGs. We have this concept called LGs, which will give you the virtual users, You need to make sure all these virtual users, there is no issues with the LGs. There is no issues with the LGs. Again, why are we running this shakedown test? First is all the scripts are working fine. Second thing is all the LGs are working fine. What is this LGs, guys? These 600 users are coming from this LGs, LG1, and 400 users are coming from this LG2. You see, these users are coming from this LGs. These users are coming from this LGs. Okay, so you need to make sure there are no issues with the LGs as well. Okay, and our performance testing environment, or whatever the environment you are doing the performance testing in, you need to make sure there are no issues with the environment. And these scripts have some data. Okay, these scripts have some data or use some data. You need to make sure that there is no issues with the data. This is the reason why we do this shakedown test or the mock test or the sample test. Okay, so we will close the class here today, guys. Okay, we'll close the class here today. Tomorrow we'll talk about a very, very important concept called LoadRunner architecture. Please come tomorrow. It is extremely important class. Definitely tomorrow makes a huge difference if you don't come. Okay, so I strongly recommend that you have to come tomorrow. Okay, so now I'll open it for questions. I'll open for all the questions. Okay, so you can, if I have missed any questions, please ask me now. Okay, please ask me now. Okay, let me see the questions that I can at this point of time. Why we check this test with 30? Checking for one will not work for me. Instead, check with certain number of users. You don't know. One, you are already doing it in Vugen. If you remember, with Vugen, you are doing with one virtual users. If you want to check with one also, it's fine. But typically with experience, I'm telling you, you check with few number of virtual users. Okay, few number of virtual users. If you wanted to check with one, it's up to you. Nobody will come and tell you with these many numbers you have to do with the shakedown. But it's good you do it with certain number of users, because these scripts might run with one user, but if you are running with multiple users, there might be some issues. So you don't want to get into any issues when you're running with the actual test. So that is the whole purpose. If it is with one user, it is already done with Vugen, so there is no purpose. This is what my take on that, Shraddha. Okay?
Sir, I just wanted to know, so if we run with 30 or 20 users in controllers, so what kind of issues we find? Means if we are just checking for the environment or with the data, so this can be possible with the single user as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. You can do it. Nobody will stop. But sometimes the script might have issues when you run with one virtual users, or could have two. Okay, maybe some correlation issues might come. Maybe LG, When can you check the LG? When you run it with multiple virtual users. LGs are the ones which will give you multiple virtual users. So we have to check if the LGs are giving multiple virtual users or not. So all those. You're getting the point, right? One virtual
Yeah,
user
yeah.
LG can give, but you wanted to check if LGs are giving that 30 or 40 or not. Okay, so it's better you do it. Nobody will stop you. I've seen some people running with one as well. Okay, shakedown test. But what's wrong putting more numbers, right? That's easy. Okay, so I'm saying that let's say you're going to a movie theater and the cost is 50 rupees. You wanted to take exactly 50 rupees, it's up to you. But people say that it's better you take 100 rupees so that you never know what would happen. So it's better you run with more number of virtual users. One also will work, okay, but better you go with more. Okay, so Lashim, is there a standard formula that we can use to pick the number of users for the shakedown test? Okay, so shakedown test, for example, you pick 50 users for 1,000. No standard formula, Lashim. Typically, as I've told you, the same thing we're discussing with Shraddha as well. There's no hard and fast rules here. Okay, and there is no formula, there is no set of rules. But typically with 5 to 10% of the users is what they run with for 15 to 20 minutes. As one of our dear students said, make sure at least one iteration is executed. If you don't check if your iteration, if one iteration is taking more than 10 minutes, then the shakedown test should be more than 10 minutes minimum. Okay, at least 20 users. Okay. So Lashim, yeah, it's set random, but make sure that each user will execute at least one iteration. Typically 3 to 4 iterations. So let's see, average you would know what one iteration would go for. Let's say the one iteration is going for 10 minutes, then you run the test for 20 minutes, something like that. Okay. So I believe lower number of users will take less time to test. No, Chaudhary, it's not like that. You can run for more users. Time is totally up to you. You can design how long it is. Time is totally up to you, Chaudhary. You can design how long you want the time to be. It is little independent of the number of users. At the later point of time, you will come to know, Chaudhary, about that. Okay. So lower number of users doesn't necessarily mean less time. No, you can define how long you wanted it to be. Okay, how does that work? I'll tell that later. Okay, when we do something called workload modeling, you will clearly understand that. You will clearly understand that. Okay, in one of my interview asking why only 1 hour for load test. 1 hour should be good enough, Kumar. I can't tell you why 1 hour, but typically that's the reason why, that's what it is for. Because you do the NFR gathering for the peak hour. This is what I will tell you. When you do the NFR gathering, you do it for 1 hour. When you do the workload modeling, you do it for 1 hour. So typically the performance test is also run for 1 hour. That's the minimum time that you run just to make sure that, and you cannot assess the performance in 15 minutes or 30 minutes. It can be little inappropriate. So it's better you run it for 1 hour. You run it for 1 hour. Okay, so Kumar, I don't know if I have answered that to your satisfaction, but that is what my answer would be. One, because you do the NFR gathering for 1 hour, you do the workload modeling for 1 hour, and you run the test for 1 hour as well. So that's a minimum. So if you're running any lesser, you cannot be absolutely sure what is the performance. You cannot be absolutely sure. To gauge the performance, at least you need that 1 hour. Okay, so Kumar, I hope I have answered that question. Okay. Please mute yourself, guys, if you're not speaking. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. Okay. So Phil says need to at least one iteration completed for shakedown. Yes, Phil, I totally agree with you. But typically, iteration doesn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. Typically. Okay. Kumar has asked a question. Can we execute it for us now? How are other business process flows performance under the load? So Kumar, we cannot execute it now. When we go to the controller, we'll start executing those. Okay, we'll start executing. So I'm browsing through all the questions, guys. How many scripts do you typically need to load test? Phil, I've already discussed that. Okay, so I'm just going through all the questions that you have. Okay, so I think I've answered all the questions. Okay, I think any questions that are left unanswered, guys, any questions that I have left unanswered. Okay, Sagar, show me how to run the shakedown test. Sagar, not now. When we get to the controller, we'll do. Any test will be run with the same way. Shakedown test or load test or stress test or whatever. Okay. So we will run each test. I'll show you how to design a load test, stress test, stroke test and all that. Okay. Then we'll also run one of the tests. Okay. So, but not now, Sagar, not now. Okay. We cannot do it now. Okay. We cannot run at this point of time. Okay. We are not ready yet. We haven't even created the scripts. Okay. Any questions, guys? Any questions?
We were talking about the record on the screen.
Oh, okay. Recording on the screen. Okay. So, Shraddha, what happens is, let me open the application. Okay. Let me open my application. Okay. So this is in response to the question which Shraddha has asked. When I'm saying Vugen is used for recording and recording doesn't happen from the screen, Okay. So Naresh, I'll take the question. Okay. So what is recording on the screen? Okay. So when something is recording on the screen, what typically happens is you enter Jojo, that will be recorded. That will be recorded into the script. You enter Bean, that will be recorded into the script. Okay. You click on login, that will be recorded into the script. So that is what is recording on the screen. So whatever you're doing on the screen, that will be recorded. But what Vugen will do is you enter Jojo, nothing is sent to the server, nothing is recorded on the Vugen. You enter Bean, nothing is sent to the server, nothing is recorded on the Vugen. But you click on login, this is when the request is sent to the server, server will send this response back, and this is what will be recorded by the Vugen. That is what I said, recording the events on the network or recording on the screen. Shraddha, is it clear?
Yeah, now means which request to send to the server, that is the recording on the screen.
No. Recording on the screen means you enter Jojo, right? Now something is recorded in the Vugen. If something is getting recorded in the Vugen, then you say that this is recording on the screen. Okay? You enter Bean. Okay? Now a piece of code is created in the Bean. Let's say a piece of code is created in the Vugen. Then the recording is happening on the Vugen. This is what we call it as recording is happening on the Vugen. But what actually happens is you enter Jojo, nothing is getting recorded, nothing will be recorded on the Vugen. You enter Bean, nothing will be recorded on the Vugen. But you click on Vugen, now a request is sent to the server, server will send the response back, and this is when will be recorded on the Vugen. Are we clear, Shraddha?
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
Okay. So do you want me to record and show it to you quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me quickly record it for Shraddha here. Tomorrow whenever the point comes, I'll show you what is recording and all that. But let's quickly record it. Okay. Now let me look at the comment, Shraddha. Okay. I'm putting the comment. Okay. So that you will know what login is. Okay. So you watch this number of events, Shraddha. You watch this number of events. Okay. So I enter Jojo. You see the number of events is how much? 59 itself. Nothing is recorded by the Vugen. Okay. I enter the password. You see the number of events, Shraddha? It is still 59. Okay. So nothing is recorded. You click on login. This is when the request is sent to the server. Server will send the response back, and recording is happening on the network level. You see? You see the increase in the number of events? Can you see that, Shraddha?
Yes.
Okay. So if it is recording on the screen level, you enter Jojo, something would have been recorded in the Vugen. Okay? Like that. Okay? But this is not happening on the screen level. This is happening on the network level. Are we clear, Shraddha?
Yeah.
Okay? If it is not clear, I'm going to show you again through another way. Okay? But you need not have to compromise. Okay? But the same Vugen, let me take another protocol. Okay? The other protocol.
Kumar, can I ask you a question?
Sure. Okay. Shraddha, I'll answer that question. I need to record something for you. Okay. Let me take others' questions.
It is also the same thing. So you were saying whenever you're typing the user and password on the screen, it is not recording to the Vugen.
Right.
Okay. That's all.
Sorry. Come again, Phil. I didn't pay attention. Yeah. Please tell me. Can you repeat? Can you come again?
Sir, you are saying that when you enter Jojo and Bean as a username and password,
Right.
right, then it will be not recorded on the VUGen,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So means how the script will know that what will means how to proceed with the username or password.
No,
Means this will be
once you
recorded
click
somewhere,
on the
right?
login, once you click on the login, this is when all the information that you have entered is put on the network, sent to the server, right?
Yeah.
That is what is captured by the VUGen.
Okay.
Okay. If you have any doubts, you can clearly see that in the script. You see, Jojo and Bean is recorded.
Yeah. This is recorded now. Means you are saying this will not be recorded on VUGen.
It will not be recorded from the screen. It is recorded from the network.
Okay.
Okay. So you will get to that when we start doing more and more, you will get to that. Okay. So we'll understand that, Shraddha. Slowly you'll understand. This information will be recorded, but not from the screen, but from the network. Okay. So, okay, I'll take Phil's question now. What it says, when capturing the HTTP protocol, it doesn't capture the browser rendering, so the response times is not accurate. How do you account for that? Well, so Phil, okay, when you're talking about the response times, it is the time taken by the server as well as it is time taken by the client or your browser as well, right? So our LoadRunner tool will capture the response times which is taken by the server. Okay, so as you said, the real response times will be the response times captured by the tool plus the browser rendering time which were not captured. Okay, so usually the browser rendering will not be that much, okay, and we can ignore it in general. So that's what it is. So but if you're dealing with the thick browsers, okay, like Ajax and all that, then better go with another protocol called Ajax True Client, which will also capture the browser render. Okay, so if in your projects, your client is very particular about browser rendering time as well, then you have to go with the Ajax True Client. So Phil, have I answered your question? Yeah. But I don't think it is required because under load the browser rendering will not change because it is for one single client. Okay. So you can check it for one user from the client side, and if you think that is slow, you can report it to your developer saying that it is slow. So browser rendering does not really change under load. So even if it was one user using it or 1,000 users using it, the browser rendering time would be still the same. Okay, do you agree with me? Yeah, it's not affected by the load. So you can calculate that separately, and if you think that is not acceptable, then you can talk to the developers and you can get that fixed. But here our concentration is fine tuning the servers, making sure the servers are working to the best of the abilities without the bottlenecks. Okay, think about the overall bigger picture, Phil. Okay, the bigger picture is we want our servers to run as fast as possible, but not to get an accurate response times, 100% accurate response times. If you're hell-bent on getting accurate response times, then you have to go with the Ajax True Client. But the whole purpose is to identify the bottlenecks, clear the bottlenecks and all that. Then web HTTP, HTML will do your work. Okay, and eventually you can calculate the browser rendering time separately, and you can add it to the response times which you captured by the tool, and you can show the complete end-to-end response times. Then you can say the transaction end-to-end response times and give a different number to it. But you have to capture the browser rendering time separately. Okay. Now I have another question. Okay. I have another question. Naresh has a question for us. So Naresh, Is there any chance to fail in the real test after the dry run test has passed? It happens certainly, Naresh. So Naresh, I'll share my experiences. I've run the test with only 30 users. But in the real world, again, when you run the actual test, it is with 1,000 users. 1,000 users means it will take more data. Okay, as I've told you, you have to do something called parameterization for the scripts, which means that the scripts will take some input. Okay, so Naresh, watch carefully. Okay, Naresh, watch carefully.
Okay.
Okay, so we do something called parameterization. Okay, so what does this mean is we give data as input to scripts. Okay, input to scripts. So I'll give you a small example so that you understand what is that inputting the data to the script. Okay, giving data as an input to the script, What does that mean? Let's say Naresh, let's say there is a login script. Okay, there is a login script.
Okay.
For this script, the different usernames and passwords you will give as an input. Okay, usernames, passwords you will give as an input. Okay, so the different inputs that you would give is Jojo, Bean. Jojo is the username, Bean is password. Okay, then you say Kumar, Gupta. Okay, this is a different username password combination. Okay, so Naresh, PT, let's say password is PT. Like this, you will give lots of data as an input to the script, so that the script will log in with different usernames and password. For one user, it will log in with Jojo and Bean. And this login script, let's say you are running with, let's say 30 users. Okay, so you will give 30 usernames and passwords. Let's say test1, test1. Okay, like this you will give. Like this you will give 30 usernames and passwords. Okay, so that this login scripts will run for 30 users with different usernames and passwords. Are we okay, Naresh, so far?
Yes.
So typically every scripts you have some input data. So in our dry run test, when you run it with, let's say you're supposed to run this with 30 users. So in the dry run test, you have run it with only 3 users. So it would have used only 3 usernames and passwords. So if there are any issues with the username and passwords with the 3 users, it might not come out. But when you go to the real test with 30 users, it will use all the 30 usernames and passwords. And even if one username password is incorrect, then the script which is related to that, or the user which is related to that particular username and password, or the script related to that username and password will start failing. Are you okay? Or sometimes you assign this to LGs. These users are coming from the LGs. Okay, the LGs have the capacity to give these 3 users without any issues. But with the same LG, you are asking for 30 users, then it might start showing those issues, saying that I cannot give the 30 users. So you can have those kind of issues. Okay. So some issues which are not there in the shakedown might come out in dry run test, but very rarely.
Okay.
Are we okay, Naresh? Have I answered your question?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Shraddha, I think one of your question is now, I think, clearly answered now with this example. Why not only with one user? Okay. I hope I have answered all the questions, guys. Now Phil has a question for us. Let's see. Okay. So can you debug the usernames with Vugen in the update on next iteration and run through all the data? Or can you debug the usernames with Vugen in the update on next iteration and run through the data? Yes. Okay. We can do that. Phil. Some companies, what they do, or some performance testers, what they do is data scrubbing. Okay. They do an activity called data scrubbing. Okay. So what they do is with the Vugen itself, they run for 30 iterations with all the users, make sure all the data is good or not. Okay, but imagine you have 50 scripts. So you do the data scrubbing for all the 50 scripts and for all the data. Sometimes it is not possible. Okay, because for one script, I've only given you one set of data. Okay, but sometimes one script have multiple sets of data. Okay, like I can give you. I mean, my script consumes at least 5 sets of data, and you cannot make sure possibly test for all the 5 sets. And I have close to 40 scripts. So imagine the kind of work you have to do before the actual test to make sure every single data line is good. So it's really, really difficult sometimes. Okay, but sometimes you can do something called data scrubbing, which means that you run the VUGen. Okay, you run the VUGen with multiple iterations and make sure that your script is taking all the data and see if there is any issue with the data. Okay, you can do that. Okay, take away unnecessary data out of the scripts. Okay, so this way the test will be more clean. But typically, okay, I'm going overboard and telling some extra information. Okay, typically 5% of errors, or I wouldn't say errors, 5% of failed transactions is acceptable in any test. Okay, you're running the test, and if there are some failed transactions, you need not have to stop the test immediately. There will be failed transactions. 5% of failed transactions are acceptable. So if there is little bit of data issues and all that, make sure it is less than, if it is overall failed transactions is less than 5%, then you can still submit your report and say that this is a good report. Okay, so you can do this data scrubbing activity. Different people call it different names. We used to call it as a data scrubbing activity, wherein you make sure that all the dirty data is taken away. How? In the VUGen, you run with multiple iterations and you take away all the dirty data. Okay, for some of them who is completely new to the tool, all this discussion would look really, really complicated, guys. Stay with me. As you proceed further, you'll understand all of this very, very easily, very, very clearly. Okay, but some people are asking some questions which are advanced, which is not covered, but I still wanted to take those questions. I'm taking the questions, guys. But somebody who's completely new to performance testing, please don't get overwhelmed by all this information. Okay, so after maybe once I've demonstrated the VUGen, this whole discussion is getting recorded, guys. This whole discussion is getting recorded. So you can come back and look at this discussion. Definitely every single point which is discussed over here, it will make sense to you. It will make sense to you. Okay. How many users to simulate against each business process or user groups? So Majid, good question. Okay, so there is no hard and fast rule. There is no hard and fast rule. We do an activity called workload modeling. In this activity, you would know each business process, how many virtual users. Okay, check mail, how many. Okay, delete mail, how many. You will get, okay, delete mail, how many. You will get it from the activity called workload modeling. You cannot take random number, and you cannot, it is not a standard for all the projects. It totally depends upon the NFRs that you have collected and the workload modeling you have done. Once you do the activity of workload modeling, you will totally understand for each business process how many virtual users are there. Okay, but it's not a standard number. It is not same for all the projects. Okay, so it's all good, guys. So tomorrow we'll continue with the architecture. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue with the architecture, guys. Very, very important. Okay, then you look at the load generators, understanding the load generators. Then I'll ask you a question if we wanted to go with workload modeling or we wanted to go with tool demonstration, because too much theory is happening from the last 2 weeks. So if you want me to jump into tool, we immediately jump into the tool. Else we will do an activity called workload modeling. Call is yours. Depending on your call, we'll do what is required. Okay. So tomorrow is an important class. Please make sure you do it. So Phil, it's not possible. So this is password protected, and this is for the demonstration purposes only. So typically most of this information I have put it in the handouts. If some information is missing, please let me know. I'll update the handouts and I will send it to you. Okay. Okay, we'll do the workload modeling so that in the weekend we'll be working on the test plan as well as advanced workload modeling tricks. So we'll have something to do over the weekend. Okay, so thank you, guys. Thank you. See you tomorrow at the same time.